members of Parliament, support staff, those in the public tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, all following this meeting of Parliament, members of the media, a very good morning to all. I welcome you to this Central Committee meeting of Parliament for today, Thursday, October the 10th, 2024. This is Central Committee meeting number 6. I also at this time want to give a special welcome to the Minister of Finance, Ms. Marinka J. Gums, and her support staff. At this time, we have established a quorum of 8 members, and I invite you to stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have received notice of lateness from the member Roseberg, and I look to see if there are any other notifications from members of Parliament. That not being the case, we can actually continue with the meeting and go on to the agenda point for this meeting. However, not before I use this opportunity again to express to all the need for continuing the awareness on mental health that affects our communities and all communities as we observe today Mental Health Awareness Day, the World Mental Health Awareness Day. I also want to use this opportunity to recognize the fact that albeit we celebrate an official remembrance of the 10th of October, on Monday, the 14th, today is the anniversary of the 10th of October, 2010. So I think that's also a very important milestone for St. Martin and the Parliament of St. Martin to look back on. And while my 10 days of observing pink, the color pink, in recognition of all the persons we have lost to breast cancer, those persons who have survived breast cancer, and those persons who are still battling breast cancer, my 10 days of observing pink in recognition of all of those have not yet started. The observance starts for me on the 20th of this month for 10 days, during which I encourage everyone to demonstrate at least a hint of pink for 10 days. I know it's not the 20th yet, but I felt the need as I look on the different awareness events that are taking place throughout the month of October on St. Martin. I recognize all the women in support of those who are battling breast cancer, amongst all ages here on St. Martin as well. I thought it's an opportune moment at this time to also pay tribute to those persons who I just mentioned in recognition of the fight against breast cancer. While all cancers matter and deserve our attention, breast cancer in particular is a growing cancer amongst all ages. Here on St. Martin, I recognize that many young women have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I can only repeat the call of get checked, and with all the opportunities now in this month to do so, I encourage all sisters, mothers, friends, aunts, everybody to make use of the opportunity to do exactly that. Having stated that and reminding everyone of my 10 days of pink, which begins on the 20th, I now go over to the agenda point for this meeting. and that is the draft national ordinance amending the National Ordinance Budget 2024. It is the National Ordinance number 181 of the parliamentary year 24-25, and it is registered on the document IS 124, dated the 4th of October of this year. Going over to the agenda point, as I mentioned, on the date of October the 4th, Parliament received the draft national ordinance for the budget amendment 2024. Of course, this entire document is available to all members of Parliament. They have received a copy, we have received a copy, and it can also be found on Parliament General Team. At this time, after having welcomed the Minister of Finance, Ms. Gomes, I now invite the Minister to make her opening remarks and give her presentation on the draft National Ordinance Budget Amendment 2024, which is before us today. Minister of Finance, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, honorable members of Parliament, Griffier, my support staff, persons in the Tribune, citizens tuned in via social media, radio, or under the sound of my voice, good morning and blessed day to all. I am here to present the draft national ordinance to amend the 2024 budget. Allow me to first state that my heart goes out to what I consider my second home, Florida. We all know too well the devastating impact hurricanes can have, and while preparedness is key, when the season arrives, the magnitude of Mother Nature can still be overwhelming. My heartfelt condolences go out to all those who have suffered losses during this time. Florida, you are in my heart and prayers. Today, October 10th, 2024, marks Constitution Day, the official day on which 14 years ago we gained our autonomy within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This milestone reflects our journey of self-governance and continued progress as a country. It also serves as a reminder of the resilience and determination of the people of St. Martin, who have worked tirelessly to shape our future and strengthen our autonomy. As we look ahead, we remain committed to building a stronger, more prosperous future for St. Martin, one that ensures continued growth and development for generations to come. As it relates to the Enyas saga, allow me to state, while various members of Parliament in St. Martin expressed concerns about Curaçao's Parliament, it is clear that Curaçao's Parliament was not concerned about St. Martin. They rightfully focused on their own policyholders and the significant financial impact that not passing the addendum would have had on their country. Curaçao acted in the best interest of their people, and we in St. Martin must continue to prioritize our country's and our people's interests with the same vigor. To the St. Martin Enya policyholders, I understand that it has been a long and uncertain period, with concerns about the potential loss of your hard-earned pensions. Specifically to the 3,084 St. Martin Enya policyholders, please know that you can now rest assured your pension contributions are secured. In this presentation on the Budget Amendment 2024, I will provide an overview of the significant amendments made to the 2024 budget, offering insight into the process that led to these changes. I will then address the CFT advice received and discuss the amendments that were incorporated into the budget as a result. Next, I will present the key figures, including the projected result, income, and expenditures for 2024. Additionally, I will highlight the main adjustments in capital investments and loans. While I, as the Minister of Finance, will present the major amendments, each individual minister will appear before Parliament to address specific questions related to their respective ministries. The 2024 budget was approved by Parliament at the end of March 2024. Following this approval, it was submitted to the Financial Supervision Council, CFT, in accordance with Article 12 of the Kingdom Financial Supervision Act, RFT. The CFT issued a negative advisory opinion regarding the budget. In response, the current budget amendment has been adjusted to reflect most of the recommendations provided by the CFT. This amendment incorporates more recent and updated information to provide a more accurate and realistic representation of the financial outlook for the remainder of the year. I will go into detail regarding the various adjustments suggested by the CFT and explain how these recommendations have been incorporated into this budget amendment. This will provide clarity on how we have addressed the CFT's concerns and aligned the budget to meet their expectations while ensuring it remains realistic and effective for the current year. In their advice, the CFT recommended that revenue and expenditure estimates be based on the most recent actual figures and that interest expenses be adjusted in line with the agreements concerning the refinancing of the liquidity support loans. They also advised reviewing the feasibility of plans to implement a tourist tax, 9 million guilders, and the sale of Winier shares, 13 million guilders, and to adjust the budget accordingly. Additionally, the CFT emphasized the need for structural control over budgeted expenditures with proper justification for each item. Furthermore, the CFT advised amending the budget to ensure that from 2024 onwards, it reflects surpluses on the ordinary service of at least 0.5% of the GDP, which translates to a surplus of 16 million guilders for 2024. They also emphasized the need for sufficient justification of the proposed investments for 2024, considering both the limited execution capacity and the delayed approval of the budget. Additionally, the CFT recommended including an explanation for multi-year capital expenditures and initiating the development of a multi-year investment agenda. Finally, they advised the preparation of a multi-year liquidity plan to assess the repayment obligations and potential need for loan refinancing. The key points highlighted in red have not been incorporated into this budget amendment, and I will now provide further elaboration on the reasons behind this. Regarding the 0.5% GDP surplus, as Minister of Finance, my colleagues and I are actively exploring ways to increase revenue and manage expenses as efficiently as possible to be able to achieve higher surpluses in the coming years. However, as noted in our response to the CFT, their suggestion is a policy guideline rather than a requirement under Article 15 of the RFT, leaving this matter at the discretion of the government. Based on current information, we do not foresee a surplus of 16 million guilders and have therefore chosen not to adopt this recommendation at this time. In terms of the multi-year capital expenditure and investment agenda, I have marked this in red because we have not fully complied with CFT's advice. While we have outlined an agenda for the next 2 years, covering 2026 and 2027, with a projection of 1% of GDP in our multi-year forecast, the specific breakdown for these last 2 years have not been included in this budget. I will now proceed to discuss the amendments as presented in this draft budget, starting with the multi-annual projections. As previously mentioned, we do not foresee a surplus of 16 million guilders. However, we do expect a slight improvement in our financial result. As shown in our multi-annual projection for 2025, there is a decline in the budget amendment in comparison to the approved 2024 budget. This decline is a result of not accounting for additional revenue related to the introduction of the tourist entry tax in 2025. In our current projections, we anticipate this tax will likely be implemented in 2026. This also explains the significant increase in our expected results for 2026 onwards. Based on more recent information from our Q2 report, we can see that our revenue is slightly lagging behind expectations. This has been adjusted in our multi-annual revenue projections. As a result, we have revised our estimates, particularly for wage tax and turnover tax for this year and the coming years. Additionally, we have made adjustments to the income for the projected sale of Winair shares, which has now been removed from the 2024 projections. Similarly, the introduction of the tourist entry tax has been postponed, and we now anticipate its implementation in 2026. In order to maintain a balanced budget, we have had to reduce our expenses by 26 million guilders for 2024. These reductions are also reflected in the multi-year budgets. I will now provide more detailed insights into the specific categories where we have decreased revenue projections and then outline the areas where expenses have been adjusted accordingly. In this budget amendment, we have reduced our revenue estimate for this year by 25 million guilders. Initially, total revenues were projected at 575 million guilders. This has now been adjusted to 550 million guilders. I will now outline the major adjustments in each revenue category. In the taxes category, we see the largest decrease of 28 million guilders. This includes the removal of the 9 million guilders tourist tax, which was intended to be introduced in the second half of 2024. However, since there has been no board at the SER, there was no movement in this legislation. A 7 million guilder decrease in wage tax, a 3 million guilder reduction in income tax, and a 9 million guilder decrease in turnover tax, TOT. The decreases in tax revenue have been adjusted based on actual figures up to Q2 and updated projections for the remainder of the year. These adjustments ensure that the budget reflects more accurate and realistic expectations for revenue moving forward. We believe the quick wins achieved in tax administration last year had an impact on revenue collection, but we suspect these increases were incidental and one-time increases, which led to a decrease this year. Our tax revenues are managed on a cash accounting basis, meaning if certain companies made payments last year for taxes related to previous years, those payments will be recorded in 2023. This can affect future projections as these revenues are one-off rather than structural. In the category of fees and concessions, the bank license fees were updated based on actual fees collected up until the end of June. We have seen a slight increase, and therefore we increased the budget amount with 2 million guilders. Additionally, concession fees have been adjusted based on legal requirements, leading to a further 1 million guilder increase from GEBE's concessions. In the category Other Revenues, there is a decrease of 1 million guilders. This includes a reduction of 11 million guilders under miscellaneous revenues, which is offset by increases of 6 million guilders in land lease income and 4 million guilders in project funds. The approved 2024 budget is included 13 million guilders from the sale of Winair shares. This has been removed in this draft budget amendment. Additionally, an additional 6 million guilders has been included from land lease agreements following recently signed contracts retroactive to 2021 with 2 hotels. These agreements increased the land lease rates per square meter. Of the total 6 million guilders, 1.5 million is structural, while 4.5 million is incidental. Project funds have been revised with an additional 4 million. These funds are tied to the country package, including $2 million for border control, Project H22, $1 million for education, and $1 million for the Tax Authority Transformation Project C4. This brings the total project fund for 2024 to $15 million. Total expenses in the approved budget were initially projected at $573 million. In the draft amended budget, these have been adjusted to $547 million, reflecting a reduction of $26 million. These reductions are primarily in the categories personnel expenses and goods and services. The majority of the expense categories, such as Social Security and sickness insurance, subsidies, depreciation, and interest, are fixed costs, making cuts in these areas nearly impossible. As a result, the only categories where reductions can realistically be made are in personnel expenses and goods and services. Over the years, we have consistently over-budgeted for personnel expenses. In 2022, we budgeted $12 million more than the actual expenses. And in 2023, this figure was $10 million higher than actuals. Therefore, for this budget, we have made adjustments by partially reducing the budgeted amounts for some vacancies and completely removing others, which resulted in a total reduction of $13 million. While vacancies have been decreased, there is a slight increase for OZR. Sickness insurance for the civil servants with $1 million. In the goods and services category, adjustments were made in consultancy and external personnel expenses, training, other goods and services, and project and activity-related costs. Due to the amendments and agreed-upon timeline, all new investments for 2024 have been removed with the exception of the prison. All other new investments have been shifted to 2025. In other words, only the investments for which we have already secured loans or financing for have been retained in the amended budget 2024. Investments for which we will still need to require new loans have been removed, as we do not expect, given the current timeline, that these projects can be executed this year. An amount of $76 million have been budgeted for the prison, of which $43 million will be financed through a loan, while $33 million will be provided by BZK. In addition to the prison, $75.6 million have been allocated to assist GEBE in acquiring new generators, which will be owned by the government and leased to GEBE. The terms and structure of the lease are currently being developed. Furthermore, $15 million have been set aside for the construction of a new building that is designated for the Mental Health Foundation. An additional $6.1 million is earmarked for the financial system to be financed through the TWO. Lastly, $18 million has been included for the sewage network, which will be financed through the trust fund. For all the new investments planned for 2024, a loan of $133.2 million will need to be acquired, which brings me to my next and final slide. At the beginning of the year, the total amount of loans, or more accurately, outstanding long-term debt, was approximately $889 million. Over the course of the year, as previously mentioned, we will need to acquire a loan of $133.2 million, while repayments due in 2024 total $18.4 million. This will leave the country with a long-term debt of approximately $1 billion at the ending of this year, with a GDP ratio of approximately 32%. Thank you for your attention. And in conclusion, as mentioned earlier, this government will continue to explore avenues to create more fiscal space ensuring that we meet our obligations and provide the essential services our population needs. It remains a priority to balance our efforts in managing expenditure efficiently while seeking ways to increase revenues. Furthermore, it is crucial to recognize that the government's long-term debt is growing. To ease the burden on future generations, we must closely monitor and manage this debt. Prudence and discipline in our financial planning are vital as we aim for sustainable economic growth. Looking ahead, it is equally important to prioritize strategic investments that will enhance our infrastructure, drive economic growth, and improve the overall well-being of our citizens. As Minister of Finance, I will remain focused on ensuring the long-term financial health of the country, addressing both immediate needs and future aspirations. Finally, collaboration with stakeholders and maintaining transparency in our fiscal management will be critical in overcoming the challenges we face. I am committed to fostering a culture of accountability and progress as we work to strengthen our country's financial position. Thank you once again for your attention, and I look forward to addressing any questions you may have.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, for your presentation on the draft amended budget 2024. I will now just briefly adjourn for 5 minutes, just giving everyone the opportunity to collect their notes and thoughts, and then we will continue. I hereby adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. Members of Parliament, support staff, Minister of Finance and your support staff. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning still, and welcome back after a brief adjournment which followed the Minister's presentation of her draft amended budget 2024. At this time, the presentation made by the Minister is on its way to you, the members, as we speak. And thus, I am going to adjourn the meeting, allowing a couple of things. One, the members to, if necessary, peruse the presentation. Secondly, the work that we're hearing in the background will be finished by then, from what we understood, and the noise will no longer be a factor, and it is also lunchtime at this time. So what I'm going to do is adjourn this meeting with those notifications until 1 p.m. and we will resume the meeting, beginning with members posing their questions with respect to the draft amended 2024 budget for the country. So with this, I hereby adjourn this meeting until 1 p.m. Meeting adjourned.